Julius Epstein was a journalist and scholar, an Austrian Jewish émigré who fled Europe in 1938, worked during World War II in the Office of War Information, and after the war became a prominent American anti-communist researcher and critic of the Soviet Union. He was a research associate at the Hoover Institution on War, Revolution and Peace for decades and authored a study of Operation Keelhaul that was the first account of the forcible repatriation by the Allies, at the end of World War II, of several million persons to the Soviet Union and countries within its sphere of influence. Life. Epstein was the son of Alice Epstein Strauss, grandson of Adele Strauss, the third wife of Waltz King Johann Strauss II. A native of Vienna, Epstein was educated at the universities of Jena and Leipzig in Germany. He left Germany on March 17, 1933, and lived for a time in Prague, Czechoslovakia. When the country was threatened by Hitler in 1938, he fled with his wife and son to Zurich, and in March 1939 the Epstein family arrived in New York City. Epstein was accredited to the United Nations as foreign correspondent for a number of Swiss newspapers and also contributed articles on the growing crisis in Europe to U.S. magazines. In 1942, he joined the staff of the Office of War Information as language editor. After the war, he was named New York correspondent for a group of newspapers in West Germany and also contributed articles to German magazines and U.S. periodicals, including Plain Talk, Human Events, and National Review. In 1963, he received an appointment to the Hoover Institution as an assistant to Dr. Stephen Posany, who conceived the U.S. Strategic Defense Initiative. 3 years later he was named Professor of International Affairs by Lincoln University in San Francisco. Epstein died on July 3, 1975, in Palo Alto, California. He was survived by his widow, Valley, and a son, Peter Stevens. Work. Lost Cosmonauts. In 1962, during the height of the Cold War, Epstein alleged that the Soviet Union had lost at least a dozen cosmonauts in undisclosed space disasters. Epstein claimed this was known to the U.S. government, but that the State Department did not want to embarrass the Russians by revealing it. He wrote that Washington's silence appears to be motivated by the strong desire to hear no evil, see no evil and speak no evil about the USSR. Epstein called on the U.S. government to disclose the extent of its knowledge of Soviet space losses. Now is the time for the government to make the deaths public for the sake of accurate history. Operation Keelhaul. In Operation Keelhaul, Epstein revealed in detail the forced repatriation at the end of World War II of 4 million Soviet citizens, expatriated white Russians who had emigrated from Russia after the Bolshevik Revolution, and other Eastern Europeans to the Soviet Union and countries within its sphere of influence after 1945. The Soviets considered these people traitors and persecuted them. Included were Red Army POWs and civilians captured by the Nazis, as well as followers of General Andrei Vlasov's Russian Liberation Army. Most were condemned to lengthy prison terms, some in the Gulag, and many were executed, including some who were summarily executed within earshot of British and American troops the moment they were handed over to the Soviets. Described by Alexander Solzhenitsyn as the last secret of World War II, the forced repatriation was agreed upon in a secret codicil to the Yalta Agreement and was kept secret for decades after World War II. Epstein first became aware of Operation Keelhaul in 1954, while doing other research at a government archive. He was told the files notated in the card catalogue as 383.74, forcible repatriation of Soviet citizens, Operation Keelhaul, were classified. He worked for 20 years to acquire the files necessary to write his comprehensive treatment on the subject, including suing the government to force them to declassify and release the files. Published works: The Case Against Vera Michelisdien and the Foreign Policy Association, 1947. The Mysteries of the Van Vliet Report, A Case History, Chicago, Polish-American Congress, Inc., 1951. Operation Keelhaul, The Story of Forced Repatriation from 1944 to the Present, Old Greenwich, Connecticut, Devon, 1973.